Welcome. This forum is for general election candidates for the Port of Tacoma, positions 3 and 5. They are 4-year terms. The candidates are, for position 3, Deanna Keller and Frank Boykin, and for position 5, Kristin Ang and Dave Bryant. The timekeeper is Susan Eidenschink of the League of Women Voters, and she enforces the timing rules so that each candidate is given the same amount of time to answer all of the same questions. The questions will be asked by members of the Community and Neighborhood Councils of Tacoma and the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County and have been prepared by them. Questions from the audience will be asked by Aviva Lemberger, a member of the League. Candidates each have 1 minute for an opening statement, and we begin with Deanna Keller.
Thank you. My name is Deanna Keller. I'm running for Port of Tacoma Commission, position number 3. As a Marine Corps veteran, former public school principal, and as the president and managing owner of a local manufacturing business for over 11 years, I've spent my entire career bringing people together, finding common ground, and getting things done. I'm running for Port Commissioner to put my leadership skills to work for Pierce County and the Port of Tacoma, because together we can create a cleaner environment, stronger economy, and more local family wage jobs. I'm proud of my record of strong business leadership, which led my multi-million-dollar business through the recession of 2008, an award in 2014 for the best mid-sized business in Pierce County, my company's handling of national and international shipping for companies including Nordstrom and Costco. In fact, I am the only one running for Port 3 that is endorsed by the Tacoma-Pierce County Business Alliance and a variety of shipping and logistics companies and organizations. I have the grit, the leadership experience, and passion for this position, and I would be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you. Frank Boykin.
Good morning, and thank you. I'm Frank Boykin. I'm running for Port 3, and I'm excited, prepared, and ready to be your next commissioner, Port of Tacoma. I am the candidate that has the most applicable, most practical business experience. I have more than 25 years in supply chain solutions, transportation and shipping, and global supply chain responses. I have the expectation of leading UPS as being its face of business development for its largest customer, Amazon. I've also led companies both small and large here in the Puget Sound area, helping them both innovate and grow. We must first grow our port, and I'm absolutely confident that the skill set that I possess does not exist at the current commission. We must have a different community engagement that is inclusive, and I am absolutely the right person to bring a fresh perspective and new ideas to the port, both between my unique experience professionally as well as my community engagement. I ask you for your vote. Thank you so much.
Kristin Ang.
Good morning. I'm Kristin Ang. I'm running for Port of Tacoma Commissioner, position 5. I always like to say that everyone can vote for Port because the Port should benefit all of Pierce County. I'm running to build a more collaborative, competitive, cleaner, and innovative Port of Tacoma that works for all of us, and that means modernizing the port and transportation infrastructure. Second, providing strong environmental stewardship and innovation that results in clean air, clean water, and family wage jobs. And third, improving the port's community relationships, particularly with the Puyallup tribe, labor, and local governments. I'll also connect our port and related industries to our educational institutions, which will foster innovation, build the skilled workforce of tomorrow, and expand community access to port jobs and opportunities. I'm a business attorney, community and environmental advocate. I'll work to restore public trust and accountability. So instead of conflicts, we can together build a shared vision for our port, for a healthy, prosperous future for our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Hello, I'm Dave Bryant, running for Port 5. The port is about ships, the shipping business, those big container ships you see. I bring a different perspective than other commissioners in the area and other commissioners running now. I come from a Navy background, commanding deep draft ships, including the nuclear aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt. With that experience, I have been all over the world to ports everywhere, entered as a foreigner into those ports, just like those ships come into our port, into a foreign port. We need to provide the support for them and understanding of their business in order to bring in their future business, grow the family wage jobs. And I have been endorsed by multiple organizations specifically because of my ability, their recognition of my ability to bring in and grow those family wage jobs. Those include the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, the Tacoma-Pierce County Business Alliance, and the Tacoma-Pierce County Black Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We move on to questions. The questions will be asked by Marty Webb of the League of Women Voters and Ginny Eberhardt of the Community Council of Tacoma. If I don't specify otherwise, you have 60 seconds to answer. The order of answering will rotate with each question, and therefore Frank Boykin will answer the first question first, and Marty Webb will ask the question.
LNG conversion was planned to put fewer pollutants in our water and air, but apparently long-term, because of fracking, it seems to be even worse. Short and long-term, what do you think we should do, and what are the options?
I think what we should absolutely do is expect to continue to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's the charge of our port, and our port needs to have a leadership position at all times when it comes to looking at our environment. I also believe in cleaner energy solutions, cleaner fuel solutions in and around the Puget Sound. So we have to keep our eye on the ball, looking at technology as ways in which we can have the introduction of new opportunities, both short-term and long-term. What does this mean? For me, this means that imagine a new fleet of trucks moving cargo from terminals to warehouses, to customers, and emitting nothing but water. It's a real possibility. It's being done in other ports, both in Long Beach and in California. So the expectation that we can continue to move LNG forward to support business currently and to ensure that we can have a response environmentally for the long term are things that we can do with the right commissioner that we place on it.
Thank you. Kristin Ang.
Hi. Moving forward, we should not be subsidizing fossil fuel industries. The LNG plant is subsidized by public ratepayers, 43%, over $130 million. We should be moving our investments towards renewable. The port we should work with our educational institutions and governments in research into cleaner fuels. Maersk is not, the largest shipping company is not betting on LNG. It is into R&D on moving away from LNG and to fossil fuels in this time of climate change. I would also increase shore power technology. The two tow ships that are in question are actually already on shore power technology. It hooks up to hydro, so it's not emitting pollutants when it's here. So I would increase that technology at the ports. But also when it comes to LNG, I think we should have these kind of discussions moving forward. What it showed, these conflicts, is the port lacked a public comprehensive engagement plan and a strategic plan for more sustainable industries. And it's great. One opportunity from these conflicts is that we can now have these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Right, for the LNG plant that started back 2014 and earlier, in order to accomplish goals that were set out, actually legal requirements for clean air and clean water pollutants that go into the ocean, this LNG plant does that very, very well. There has now been additional requirements for reduction of greenhouse gases, which actually the LNG plant does significantly. There is the other side, which is fracking, other means that natural gas is brought out of the earth. Those technologies need to be improved, and there are improvements for it. But as we go forward, we need to use that as a model for partnering with shipping companies and the shipbuilders that are going to be investing in the ships for the future in order to determine what we need to do for a technology roadmap to develop the right services for the future for those shipping companies and for those ships, so they have a port to come to that services that new technology.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Well, as everyone knows that we are addicted to fossil fuels, and it's very difficult for us to be able to stop cold turkey. So we need to find solutions that are much cleaner and to do more than just the minimum. In January 1st, 2020, the International Maritime Shipping Organization determined that they would go to low sulfur diesel. At that time, Tote Maritime decided that they were going to do more than that they were going to not just do the minimum, but actually do more that's even cleaner than low sulfur diesel. We also have an issue with our port workers who are breathing in diesel fumes and also bunker oil fumes, which is unhealthy for them. In fact, the American Lung Association has determined that breathing in diesel fumes is carcinogenic. So short-term solution, we need to do everything that we can to have a cleaner environment as soon as possible, and then be looking for better long-term solutions.
Thank you. The next question will come from Ginny Eberhardt, and Kristin Ang will answer it first.
The defined role of the port is economic development. How would you balance that with the desires of neighbors, the needs for clean air and water, and coordinating that with the Puyallup tribe and the city of Tacoma?
I think in some ways the framing of that question about balance is a bit on the false premise that you have to choose between environment and jobs. I think this type of thinking has hindered Tacoma in the past, and that's why it has that history of Superfund sites that has cost us hundreds of millions in cleanup, as well as plus more lost economic opportunity. Every time Tacoma has chosen a cleaner environment, it has prospered. As we've seen, we've moved past ASARCO. When in terms of this balance, I think in this time of climate change, the only way to thrive in the 21st century now is to integrate strong environmental stewardship and innovation into our economic development. Most jobs are in renewable. They're moving to removal, they're moving away from fossil fuels. Even the fossil fuel industry is moving away. And what we need to do is have a livable community, have strong educational institutions that attract companies and attract people to stay in Tacoma or to move to Tacoma, because talent is attracted to livable cities where we can have discussions about a shared future. And at this time, that is what is going to keep us innovative and a leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Dave Bryant for Port 5. Answering that with jobs, family wage jobs are very, very important. The port was established specifically to generate those jobs for a maritime business area, setting aside those lands in order to provide those services. As we move forward, the best way to balance and actually incentivize shipbuilders is to get with them, get with members of the community here, reach out to them. But the primary thing is to reach out to those shipbuilders with international regulations and our national regulations and determine what they are going to need for their future services. Incorporate that technology into our systems and our services so that we know what we need to court for new businesses for the future. By doing that, they will realize that we're working to support them best, and therefore they'll bring their business in, which will bring those family wage jobs and grow those family wage jobs in the port.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
I'm really excited about the possibility with the sub-area plan. I know it's moving fairly slowly, and hopefully we'll pick up some steam with that. But getting people together to talk about what they commonly want, what the vision of the port would be, is extremely important. I don't think, as Kristin said, I don't think that business and the environment needs to be exclusive. It should be together. We should have business working together to also clean up our environment. And during my campaign, I have specifically gone out and I have gathered bipartisan elected official countywide support. I've also talked with a lot of business organizations on the tide flats and around the area. And being a representative of the business community, I do have those connections as well. I've also have a lot of labor endorsements, and I have also reached out to the tribe. I've talked with Aaron Flygar about the concerns that the tribe has. So during the campaign, I've already done the collaborative work, and I continue to want to do that and to dig in deeper. I'm excited to dig in deeper and to bring it all together.
Thank you. Frank Boykin.
The expectation of being able to provide both business development or economic development as well as a community piece is really what is centered and necessary in order to bring about the expectation that question begs. But you have to have a fresh perspective and new ideas in order to bring it about. You have to have the credibility in your professional platform as well as in your professional footprint, as well as your community footprint. The skill set about growing a business, where I've been the face for business development for UPS, for its largest customer and a number of customers here locally in Puget Sound, has helped me be able to be a trusted advisor and help them grow their home-based businesses as well as their regional businesses. When it comes to the community piece, I have been involved in my own city of University Place, as a planning commissioner, and have learned to lead from community organizations that are based and familiar to you. I know these are the two-pronged approach that ensures that we change the narrative and we ensure that the port grows responsibly and different and well for the next 100 years.
Thank you. The next question will come from Marty Webb, and Dave Bryant will answer it first.
A signatory to the 1989 Puyallup Land Claims Settlement Agreement, the Port Commission has a responsibility to consult on projects with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. What would your approach be to meaningfully consulting with the tribe, and should we bring the tribe into port lease negotiations?
So the Puyallup Tribe is an independent political organization that has a lot of vested interest in what happens in those lands down there where the port is. I think it is critical that we bring them into every discussion that we have, including leasing negotiations. All those should be open to everyone in the community. I think one of the changes that needs to happen is that we need to have more than just open and public meetings where people are invited. We need to move those meetings to the organizations, the stakeholders, including the Puyallup Tribe. Take those meetings and do them at their location, at their convenience, so that we're not expecting them to reach out to us in the port. So I think with that extra effort, and I think that should be everywhere throughout all the community stakeholders, that we have that reach out to those community stakeholders.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
So I read through the Puyallup Land Use Agreement, and I think that when I've talked with other people about it in the port and around the area, there is a feeling, and which I don't agree with at all, that the tribe does not need to be consulted. And I totally disagree with that, because the tribe is a sovereign nation. This land we took from them, and I know we negotiated through that agreement, but they still need and deserve the respect of again, like a sovereign nation, and showing them the respect to come to the table and to make sure that their concerns are heard and that we negotiate and agree to, moving forward on those properties. So again, it's like we had talked about, or the question was asked about, should we be in negotiation with them? And I do agree that we should be.
Thank you. Frank Boykin.
May I hear the question again, please?
A signatory to the 1989 Puyallup Land Claims Settlement Agreement, the Port Commission has a responsibility to consult on projects with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. What would your approach be to meaningfully consulting with the tribe, and should we bring the tribe into port lease negotiations?
Absolutely, bringing the tribe into negotiation is a given. How we have had engagement in the past has been part of the challenge. I believe it's been a symptom of a number of issues in which we haven't been as comfortable with the experience as residents and voters that we've received from our commission. I'm committed to changing that, and I'm committed and have been clear about a more open, more inclusive engagement is not only necessary, it's critical in order to move things forward, not just when it comes to the sub-area plan where you've got 5 different parties that have vested interests, including the tribe. But most importantly, we've also had a clear expectation to be different and to be better. Consultation is a legal term, so I want it to move more than just being legal and appropriate. We need to have honest, candid dialogue where stakeholders are clear, our expectations are clear, and most importantly, our engagement is authentic.
Thank you. Kristin Ang.
The Puyallup tribe is a sovereign nation. They have been on these lands since time immemorial. And for the port's 100-year history, there has always been an intense conflict between the port and the tribe. There has been a history of environmental racism against the tribe because this has always been prime property, those tide flats. There's always been a fight. And it's time that we do acknowledge that there have been wrongs so that we can move forward. As we embark in this next 100 years, this is very important for our economy to grow. And it's not only just, but it makes economic sense that the tribe is at the table. And it's more than just words, it's more than just what's on paper. We have to build the relationships with the Puyallup tribe. We have to share values and a shared vision with them. I am deeply honored that they have endorsed my campaign and myself because I've tried to build these bridges, and they normally do not endorse, but I said I'm gonna work in good faith. And that means more than just saying it, it's actually doing it. And that has been, I guess, rare in this time, in the past 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Eberhardt, your next question goes to Deanna Keller first.
What specifics in your life and experience qualify you for this position, and why do you want it?
Certainly. Well, as I mentioned before in my introductory statement, I have spent 24 years of my life as a public school servant and as a teacher, as a music program administrator, and as a principal. I've also served my community on boards, different boards. I was president of the Broadway Center Board. I've been chairman of another large board. And I've been selected by my peers for all of these things. And so I basically have very strong leadership skills, and I'm very proud to, again, to have my peers select me. I'm trying to think of what else I can say, other than the fact, and also as a Marine Corps veteran, I also served my country well, and I plan to serve this position the same way with loyal duty, faithfulness, honor, and integrity. And I'm very excited for this position. I love the maritime industry. I'm a boater. I know a lot of people down at the port, and I just am excited for the possibility.
Thank you. Frank Boykin.
I am so excited to respond to this question. I have been clear that I am the candidate with the most practical and the most applicable business experience. I have more than 25 years of industry-related experience, and that includes the transportation, the shipping, the logistics, the supply chain solutions. It's a unique skill set that does not exist on our current commission, and most importantly, it's the type of portfolio that is critically connected to how to engage in the port to ensure that we grow it through its international activity. And beyond that, I have a history of serving throughout Pierce County on a number of boards, a number of commissions. I'm excited about that, also including an educational piece where I've served here on the board of directors for Annie Wright, as well as currently president-elect for Pierce College Foundation. These have to be how we look forward to ensure that we engage the community to increase and create other opportunities for maritime jobs and other opportunities for maritime results. I look forward to serving, and I'm really hopeful that people will lean into this race and look at those qualifications. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kristin Ang.
I have an international law, trade, and business background. I have studied and worked in China, Hong Kong, our largest trading partner. The News Tribune endorsed me because they believed I am well-versed in Pacific Rim trade, but also that I have an understanding of what our working port needs for the next 100 years. What brought me to this race was environmental stewardship, because I don't believe in just doing the minimum. If you want to be prosperous, you have to be a leader in environmental innovation and economic stewardship. And that means be doing more than the minimum, because the port has so much potential, and that is why I'm running. In order to fulfill that, the port does need to open up and connect to our communities. The best ports are the ones that are highly connected to their communities, whether it's labor and to the Puyallup tribe, and our educational institutions. That will give it its edge and innovation. The best ports are green and harnesses the talents of its people. The port can no longer do business unilaterally or with a fist. It has to open up and collaborate, and it will open up more opportunities and will make us a more prosperous region. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Dave Bryant for Port 5. As I started out in my initial description, I bring ship experience from the Navy, driving deep draft ships. That includes training by the Department of Energy in different propulsion sources, different energy uses in propulsion. And that brings a background of understanding of the technology. I have significant education in this area, and I think that is critical as we start a strategic planning process that needs to have a technology roadmap laying along with that, so that we understand what technology is ready for implementation and when we can incorporate it. I think that is critical. The last 18 years, I've been working for Boeing, incorporating new technology, building international teams for technology development, and I understand the technology that's required, and I think that is critical to this strategic planning process and the technology roadmap that goes along with it.
Thank you. The next question comes from an audience member. It will be asked by Aviva Lemberger, a member of the League of Women Voters.
How serious do you think man-made climate change is, and what is the port's role in addressing man-made climate change?
And Frank Boykin answers first.
I think that the climate change impact is upon us as we speak. I think also that the expectation of the port, it has a responsibility not only to lead in this area, but in every area. I have been consistent about making sure that that new leadership that's fresh as well as new has to have an expectation of growing our port first and then ensuring that it grows responsibly as well as sustainably. That means that when it comes to climate change, that we take to heart every opportunity for new data, every opportunity to ensure that we are responding to that and making clear that the engagement that must be authentic with community is part of how we decide to move forward. I would submit to you in the next 20 years, we have to be absolutely critical that we have aligned ourselves in a way that ensures that the port's leadership has been responsive, not just to community, but ensuring that every business interest also has been taken into account. I look forward again to ensuring that that fresh perspective and that nuance of community engagement is brought to the forefront each and every opportunity I get to serve on the commission.
Thank you. Kristin Ang.
Climate change is the challenge of our times. Ports as economic engines have a significant role. 90% of goods go through shipping. And if shipping was a country, it'd be the 6th largest emitter of GHG emissions. We do have a role. We do have a role into research and connecting with our educational institutions to address climate change. We have a role in mitigating our impacts, our negative impacts on human health, clean air, and clean water around our area, even underwater noise, so that we lessen our impact on the orcas. We have something precious here, a unique natural environment that is worth preserving for our generation and the next. And as stewards, as commissioners, we should take our role seriously. That this is a treasure, something rich. It has fisheries, it has mental well-being, trade. It's an economic driver, but it's something that's not just for our generation. It should be for 7 generations onwards. And so I highly prioritize environmental stewardship at the port. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Yes, we have a big impact, and just as the previous people had said, the ships actually have a huge contribution to those emissions. That is something that we need to work on very hard in the port. We need to work with our elected officials at the state and the national level so they can push international changes. One of the most critical things that we can do, though, is, as I said before, If we can work with the shipbuilders to show them that we are dedicated to provide the services that they need, so when they build the next generation of multi-billion-dollar ships, that they can see and they can look across the Pacific and see that Tacoma has the services for their future technology, then they're going to be willing to invest. They can't do it on their own. They can't build a new propulsion technology and not have ports that have the services that support them. So we need to do that hand in hand, and we need to get ahead of it, 8 to 10 years ahead of it, in order to be able to bring in the technology, build the services while they are incorporating the new propulsion technology.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
So there is absolutely no doubt that we have impacted our climate, and it's becoming actually much more exponential and moving a lot faster. The last few summers, we have been breathing in quite a bit of wildfire smoke, and it's beginning to be, I was surprised it wasn't happening this last summer, and I'm glad to have that happen. But the port's role is needs to be a leader. Obviously, the port consumes and uses because it's an industrial site. We've got to find all kinds of renewable resources for the manufacturing businesses and the shipping businesses that are down there at the port. There are a lot of different resources that I'd like to see in a strategic plan. Puget Sound Regional Council has produced a Vision 2050, which includes not only infrastructure and economic growth, but it also talks about climate change and how we need to deal with that here in Puget Sound. So again, strategic planning is, I believe, the way to do that, and that will start on January 1st.
Thank you. Marty Webb asks the next question, and Kristin Ang answers it first.
The Northwest Detention Center is very close to port businesses. Other residences are not far, and many people work in the port. Are the safety plans adequate to protect human lives and nearby businesses in the event of a crisis? What, if any, improvements could or should be made, and how will you work to ensure the safety of all?
The Northwest Detention Center should have never been located near a Superfund site. That site is not zoned for residential, yet there have been people there that have been detained for years. As for safety, we should know what's at our ports and that businesses are complying with environmental regulations. As we've seen with the chemical fire that happened a year ago, they got a huge millions of dollars of fines. And people were not alerted. What is the public notice? I even heard that someone got fired for posting a picture of the chemical fire to the public. That's the kind of culture we need to change around that port, that we should be alerted. There should be public notice, that public disclosure of information of what's going on and what chemicals are at the port and what are the safety evaluation of everything. We need to take a look at this, because when natural disasters hit, the port is the tide flats are the hardest hit. And so for me, we need to take a look at this and scrutinize safety plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant.
Dave Bryant for Port. The Northwest Detention Center, first, I agree, should not have been put there. We have zoning for manufacturing and industrial for a reason, and that is because there are additional safety risks in a manufacturing industrial area. The people that work in there do not live, sleep, and eat there, except for occasional meals, but it is not their home. They leave there when they're done with work. They are trained in what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to evacuate in emergencies, and there is nowhere near that in a very, very dense living arrangement for the Northwest Detention Center. Now, the safety procedures in the area, that is the next part for the LNG plant to go through its certification. It goes into operation, and we will be directly involved in overseeing that. That's one of my jobs within Boeing, is risk analysis and making sure that there's mitigation for any of the risks that are there. So I have a lot of experience in that area.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
Well, just exactly like Kristin and Dave Bryant also said, that the Northwest Detention Center should have never been put on the industrial site at all. And I certainly don't agree also with them being detained anyway, because people seeking asylum are not criminals and they shouldn't be treated as such. But in terms of safety plans, having been a public school principal, which I involved myself with safety of kids and teachers, and as well as a business owner, making sure that our workers are well protected. I met with Ryan Erickson of the Tacoma Fire Department, who does the permitting. I talked with the project manager at the LNG facility, and I talked with the chief engineer with the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission to find out what kinds of protections that there are, and do they meet the regulations, do they have the proper permitting. And so I felt fairly comfortable that with all of these regulatory agencies that it's safe.
Frank Boykin.
The detention center has been clearly an abomination in our community. The safety aspect that has been raised very well may be how safe are we. It's already been demonstrative that the safety within the detention center itself hasn't been what it should be if you're concerned about just human life. Having said that, what can we do? Well, we as a port, fresh ideas, fresh perspective, but also owning the opportunity and space that we have. The port has CSRs, or corporate social responsibility programs. This is specifically an opportunity based upon the strategic plan that exists right now with the port, that the expectation is to build community connections. We can make it a point to have an initiative that aligns with our interests, that come from community. This is clearly an opportunity for us to do very differently when it comes to the detention center and other impacts to our community, where, again, a community engagement piece has not been appropriate. I look forward to being able to offer that fresh perspective and that response that we need.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Ginny Eberhardt will ask it, and Dave Bryant will answer it first.
Please describe your vision for the port over the next 20 years. What changes would you like to see, and what changes do you fear you might see?
So I'd like to get to a vision for the future 20 years from now, and I can very well see no fossil fuel, non-fossil fuel propulsion ships steaming across the Pacific with minimal carbon emissions, essentially generating water, maybe augmented by solar power. Those need technologies, those need services that are in the port. And so we need to determine what that future is going to be, what the future propulsion technology is, and again, build those services into the port. So we have places, if we're doing fuel cell technology, we have fuel cell services and fuel cell building companies that we bring in and lease facilities for the port. And in addition, just about all of the current systems down there, hustlers that run around moving things on and off ship, we should electrify all of those things, make them as clean as possible so we are not continuing to dump pollution into the air that the people working in the port and the port environment has to breathe.
Thank you. Deanna Keller.
I would like to talk about attracting new businesses through responsible incentives, because it also creates more family wage jobs. I'd like to modernize the terminals. I think right now that the software is out of date, and actually the software with each of the terminals are different. I'd like to be able to track definitely our logistics so that we know when a truck is coming in so we can reduce the wait time. I want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I want to strategically manage growth, because I think economic development is great, but if you are not providing for looking in the future to making sure that that growth is being supported, it's important for that to happen as well. And I think that's also strategic planning. My fear is that we're going to have encroachment from residential areas coming into and loss of industrial lands. I think that would be devastating for our economy, and I'm extremely concerned about that.
Thank you, Frank Boykin.
what I like to see and what I'd also like not to see. Let me just first share with you, my vision is to ensure that we, again, first must grow our port. The port's always been a place about jobs. So historically, it's been a place where people at every educational level could support families through engagement at the port. I like to make sure it stays that way, and I'll be confident that it'll stay that way with my expectation of being part of the port. The next thing I'd like to see in terms of how we would look at the port, I would say we would first want to ensure that we incentivize tenants that are at the port, make sure that we encourage opportunities to attract businesses that are already green in their philosophy and their engagement. And then I'd also like to see a community engagement piece that is real. It is clear that the history that we've had as we've been able to provide an experience for the port has been absence of some real engagement. Fresh ideas and fresh perspective is what's needed to bring that about. Professionally, I can bring both. Looking forward to the opportunity.
Thank you. Kristin Ang.
I see a thriving, sustainable maritime industry and also a plan that went beyond the boxes. I see the port as an environmental and economic leader in our region, something that united us, an innovative hub that helps coordinate strategy investments in our county for smart growth. I see that the port had stronger regional partnerships with the Puyallup tribe, with labor, local, our strong educational institutions. I see that the Puyallup tribe has chosen to develop the most prime property at the port that has been underdeveloped. I see that we will have to also face sea level rise, even if we address climate change, and that's a $24 billion price tag, according to a study for Washington State, that we will have to face. I also see that there is a maritime high school connected to this port, a maritime regional training center, that we have a large and skilled workforce that makes us competitive, that we have a research lab into fuels and environmental innovation. I see in 20 years us being a leader in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move to closing statements. Candidates have up to 1 minute, preferably less because we're out of time. Reversing our order, Dave Bryant will give the first statement, and we go down the row that way.
Thank you very much. Dave Bryant, running for Port. As I'd said at the very beginning, I bring the experience of being captain of large ships, deep draft ships, driving them around to foreign ports. I understand cranes, I understand the services that are necessary in those foreign ports, and I understand what the shipbuilders and the shippers, what they need in a port that they look out across the Pacific to provide them the services they need. I think that is the critical thing we need to add to the base for the commissioners, the 5 commissioners. I think that is very, very critical to it, and I bring that. Along with that, I bring a lot of experience in bringing in new technology, evaluating new technology. That will provide us a cleaner port, cleaner air, less emissions, and a better and sustainable port while we continue to grow jobs and make our port and the Northwest Seaport Alliance the most attractive port for all the businesses on the other side of the Pacific. Thank you. Dave Bryant for Port 5.
Thank you. Kristin Ang.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Kristin Ang, and the next term will shape both the Tide Flats Sub-Area Plan and the Port's Master Strategic Plan. In this time of transition, climate change, and increased global competition, we need a new generation of leaders at the port that can unite us to tackle the challenges of our time. We need a shared vision. And that is why I've been building bridges within our community, with the Puyallup tribe, with the city. The mayor does support my campaign, with some representatives, as well as labor, the men and women who work at our port, Pierce County Central Labor, the Longshore Teamsters. But it's gonna take more than that. It's gonna take a whole strong coalition and collaboration to move our economy forward, and that's gonna take the whole community, which includes all the people of Pierce County. And that's why I'm asking you to all invest into the port. As we embark on the next 100 years, I want you, the people of Pierce County, to share what your visions are for the port, and I will represent that because I truly believe we can be a leader in the nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Frank Boykin.
Right now is the right time to do the right thing right away. I am ready and prepared to be your next commissioner for the Port of Tacoma, position number 3. I have the most practical and most applicable business experience. I have more than 25 years of industry-related experience as it relates to the critical work in order to move our port forward, to ensure that we're well positioned for the next wave of global competition, which we're only going to meet and be responsive to if we look at our commission, see what's missing, ensure that we have positioned ourselves well, and then be responsive to that expectation. We have to have a port that grows, but grows responsibly and sustainably. That means doing things well as professionals by ensuring that the complementary piece that we have works for all of us. It also means an authentic, different, fresh perspective for engagement that actually is substantive, that moves our community forward, that makes sure that we're connecting with what the port values and, just as importantly, what the community values.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Deanna
much.
Keller.
When I look back at my 31 years of public service right here in this community, I'm most proud of having been selected by my peers to hold leadership positions. From high school band director to the President's Own United States Marine Band, from working mom to school principal, from sales to a CEO of $1 million company, I've brought people together. I listened, I learned, made a plan, and got things done. I will approach my job as Port Commissioner the same way. Let's bring labor, business, community members, and elected officials to the table to create local family wage jobs, improve our infrastructure, and keep our workers safe and environment clean. I have strong county-wide bipartisan business and labor endorsements showing that during my campaign, I have gathered stakeholders who all believe I am the right person for this position. I want to put my record of award-winning leadership and can't wait to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Bryant and Kristin Ang are candidates for Port of Tacoma position 5. Frank Boykin and Deanna Keller are candidates for Port of Tacoma position 3. Thanks to all of them for being here and answering our questions. And thanks to the questioners, the timekeeper, the studio audience, the home audience, all our volunteers, and the great people at TV Tacoma. Don't forget to vote. Thank you.